Most people believe intensity wins. That effort, pushed to its limits, is what creates results. So they wait for motivation, for the perfect surge of energy, for the moment when they can try harder than ever before, and then they disappear. There is a quieter pattern operating beneath this cycle. It does not look dramatic, it does not feel heroic, but it outperforms intensity almost every time. Showing up daily, not explosively, not perfectly, consistently, we are conditioned to admire bursts, the overnight success, the dramatic transformation, the visible breakthrough. But what we rarely see are the invisible repetitions that preceded them. Because repetition is not exciting, it is ordinary, and ordinary does not attract attention. Trying hard is emotionally satisfying. It creates a story, a narrative of sacrifice, a sense of urgency. But effort without continuity dissipates, like a spark without fuel. The real leverage hides in accumulation. When you show up daily, something subtle begins to shift. The barrier to starting lowers, the resistance weakens, the task becomes familiar. Trying hard relies on willpower, showing up relies on structure, and structure compounds. Consider how habits form, not through intensity, through repetition. The first attempt feels heavy, the 10th feels manageable, the 100th feels automatic. What changed? Not your talent, your relationship to the task. This is the hidden advantage of daily presence. You remove negotiation. There is no question of whether you feel like it. The decision was already made yesterday. Trying hard often emerges from guilt. You fell behind, you delayed, so you compensate with intensity, but intensity creates volatility. Burnout follows. Consistency breaks. The cycle restarts. Daily showing up stabilizes the curve. It reduces emotional swings. It transforms performance from event-based to identity-based. There is also a psychological shift most people miss. When you try hard occasionally, success feels external, dependent on mood, on circumstances, on timing. When you show up daily, progress feels internal, anchored in behavior. Even on low-energy days, you move forward slightly. And slight movement compounds faster than dramatic pauses. We underestimate how much momentum lives in continuity. A writer who produces one page daily completes a book. A learner who studies briefly every day outpaces someone who crams intensely once a week. The math is simple, but the discipline is subtle. Intensity is attractive because it feels powerful. Consistency feels quiet, almost invisible. Yet systems, not emotions, produce durable results. Look closely at high performers across domains. Athletes train daily. Musicians practice scales daily. Builders refine processes daily. Not because each session is extraordinary, but because repetition refines edges. Daily exposure reduces friction. The unfamiliar becomes familiar. The complex becomes navigable. The intimidating becomes routine. Trying hard attempts to conquer the mountain in a sprint. Showing up daily builds a path around it. There is another contradiction here. Trying hard often focuses on outcomes. Daily presence focuses on process. Outcomes are distant. Process is immediate. When you anchor to outcomes, discouragement arrives quickly. When you anchor to process, progress is measurable every day. This removes emotional dependency from performance. You no longer wait to feel ready. You act because it is the scheduled rhythm. And rhythm creates stability. The most profound advantage of showing up daily is not skill acquisition. It is identity formation. You stop being someone who occasionally tries. You become someone who consistently acts. Identity solidifies through repetition. Each day reinforces the narrative. This is what I do. Over time, that narrative becomes harder to break than any burst of motivation. Ask yourself something quietly. How many times have you tried hard and then stopped? How many intense weeks were followed by silence? Now compare that with even modest daily effort. Which one builds trust with yourself? Which one reduces resistance over time? Which one feels sustainable 5 years from now? Trying hard creates spikes. Showing up daily creates trajectories. Spikes are visible. Trajectories are transformative. The world often celebrates visible spikes. But sustainable success hides inside steady lines. So examine your approach. Are you waiting for the next surge of motivation? Or are you designing a system that requires no surge at all? Consider what would change if your only commitment was this: show up tomorrow, and the next day, and the day after that. Not perfectly, just present. Observe what compounds. Notice how resistance fades. Notice how identity shifts. Because the real advantage was never intensity. It was continuity. Reflect on where you rely on trying hard. Then experiment with something quieter. Commit to daily presence. And share what changes when effort becomes rhythm instead of reaction.